Hi everyone, Rocker here, and today I'm with the beautiful bondmaid Raven, and she's from Australia. As I've known her for a few months now, she's also involved in my Discord and a very unique, genuine, a little bit outspoken, but extremely beautiful and intelligent kajira. So, how are you doing, bondmaid?
I'm very good, Master.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
Good. Okay, so first of all, general questions is how did you find out about gore?
I found out about Gore, this was even before my BDSM days. I found out about Gore through some good friends. I was over their house one day and I found their set of Gorean novels. And during discussing those novels with them, I found out that they actually lived for real life. So he was a master, she was his slave, and they had another slave girl over in New Zealand who often visited. So we were discussing the novels that day, and it came out in discussion. He sort of looked at me and he went, "You'd make a wonderful slave." And I went, "Oh no, 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 no! I'd never be a slave. Oh no, no, no." Anyway, I took away Tansman and read it and loved it. And shortly after that, I started going into the BDSM scene with another friend as her submissive and spent many years as a slave, serving on a BDSM level. I had no idea that there was an opportunity to join Gorean masters and be their slave as such through the BDSM scene. Um, Eventually, I split from that mistress because she had to move interstate. So I went on the hunt for a new dominant, and I came in contact with and spent some time with a couple of Gorean masters who started me on my kajira path. I read far and wide as much as I could. During that time, I also served a Gorean mistress as well, a free woman. And I also did an online dynamic for a while with a Jarl in Spain. And now I'm come full circle to now here.
Okay. And how long ago did you start your journey?
Uh, as a slave, I started probably about 18 plus years ago. As a Gorean slave, more along the lines of 10. So I've been, and I did take a break of about 2 years in that, where I needed a bit of a rest after a dynamic, and it took me a little while to sort of sort through some things in life. I had an operation as well, so I had some health issues that I had to work through. But it's been essentially 10 years.
Okay. And tell me about your home life. I know you have a dog.
I've got two dogs, and
Okay.
you'll probably hear the puppy. He's
Okay.
here. My home life, I am not your typical Kajira. I am married, and I'm married to a man who has no interest in gore whatsoever. He's vanilla. He knows of my lifestyle, and I have his blessings on that, but he has no interest in it, and he really doesn't understand it. He doesn't like gore or anything like that. On top of that as well, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, so I'm not your normal Kajira in that instance at all.
Okay. Well, I guess that I'm not your normal master because I've had Dee, which many have known throughout the years that she was with me for almost 10 years. And
Mm.
her husband, nothing to do with gore, would have not, he would come out to the odd pig roast, poker on whatever, but he had no interest in it. But he had no issues with her being with me as well. So
Yeah,
that's one of the nice things about being poly is that when it's open and there's open communications and expectations, is that it actually can work. Um,
it does work. Yeah, very, very well. But you do have to be very open and honest, and you have to be respectful to your vanilla partner as well. Um, I'm very mindful not to force any of my gore or my kink journey on my husband to make him feel uncomfortable. So I'm very mindful to be very respectful of him in that regard. And in return, he's very respectful in giving me space and being able to explore as well.
Okay. Now is we need to move up to where you are now. You are with a mistress that, and I know she's going to watch this and get her
Yes,
approval on this. But if she
very
was
excited.
anywhere in North America, you talked about hunting kind of thing, is in a heartbeat, I would be hunting her. So, but
Yeah,
that will get her all upset or get her blushing one way or the other. But
or both.
yeah, or both. Yep. But you two seem to be a really good fit. How
Yes.
did you run into her, and how is that going, as far as having a free woman as your mistress?
Okay. I met her. I had a previous master. I've been having trouble finding a Gorean master locally here to where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up settling for a BDSM master. And it didn't work because BDSM masters are a little bit different to Gorean masters. In
Yep.
fact, they're worlds apart.
Yep. Very different.
So I met her through that dynamic, and we became very, very close friends. And we traveled along a little bit. When that dynamic ended, we traveled along, just remained friends. And then one day we were just talking, and she said, I would love to own you. She said, I've been reading the Gore novels. I'm extremely interested in the Gorean lifestyle. She said, I would love to own my own bondmaid, and you would be the one that I would love to own. And so I said, well, I'd love to be owned by you because we get along really well. I respect you. You're the kind of free woman that I feel is very honourable and has a lot of integrity. And my husband liked her, obviously. So so I basically said yes, and we've been going along very well. We are very well matched. It's almost, she's not my first free woman I've served. I did serve another free woman many years ago, and that was an amazing dynamic as well. And only ended because she's got really, really tough stuff going on at home at the moment. But it's not my first free woman that I've served, and I find when I choose the right woman, we get along really, really well. The interesting thing with that, though, is I've found myself for the first time in the role of first girl, which is a little bit alien to me because I'm used to being down in the chain. I'm used to being like second or third girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now learning very quickly how much responsibility and how much integrity and how much honesty that I've got to display as a first girl in that dynamic. And absolutely everything I do and say shines on her. Twofold, because one, I've got a more elevated position in this dynamic, but I'm also in a position where I'll be teaching any other slaves that she ends up owning as well. So
Yep.
that is something new in this dynamic, and something that I haven't ever experienced before.
And one of the nice things about it, and it's unique that people want to know, is that Cassandra, which is your mistress, is that she has another slave by the name of Pete. And so
Yes,
it's not just a female run home kind of thing, but that she has both a male and a female slave.
yes,
So, which is very unique. And Pete's also starting to learn about gore and some of the
yes,
protocols and moving in that direction as well. So that's
yes,
quite exciting to be able to see and to be able to hear about, because that's doesn't happen very often.
yeah. Petey's actually gone from being a BDSM high protocol slave to now a kajira's, and he's really relishing that role. He loves it. Oh, I love your kitten.
Mm.
He absolutely loves that role. And I'm really excited to be sharing that journey with him. And Petey and I get along really, really well. So he teases me a lot, though. He's really mean, as
Okay.
all brothers are.
Okay.
But at the moment, it's great. It's a great setup because we're all learning from each other. We've all got something new that we haven't experienced before that we're having to experience and learn from each other. And with that, we're respecting each other as well.
Okay. Let's move into as far as your own life experience as far as being a kajira. I know that you've had different masters online, mistresses online, whatever. But you've also moved into the element of something that's close to my heart, and that's demonstrative service, such as dance. I know you're very big on dance. Share a little bit about that.
I'm a professional dancer, and I've been teaching dance for many, many years, over 20 years. And at the moment, I'm also teaching slave girls to dance. I've got a couple of girls that are learning to dance for their masters at the moment, and I'm teaching them online. Uh, and the form of dance I do is belly dance. But also I do have a huge history of Polynesian, African, jazz and ballet as well. And I perform professionally. Obviously, I haven't performed much this year due to COVID, but that's what I do.
Okay. Very good. As I know that's something that's always been close to me. I've had several girls over the years that dance was very much a part of what they were about and something that meant a lot to me, especially when they
Yes,
made up their own routines and the story behind it is like, okay, this is perfect. And me just
yes,
being a little bit selfish and having a little bit of an ego. I know that's a shock, but when you have a girl and you've got 200-300 people in front of you and you put her up on a table and get her to dance for everybody, it's like, yeah, she's mine, and
yeah.
it creates that proud moment. Okay, what character from any of the books do you identify with or that you can relate to the most?
There's no one character because there's the books are so enriching of characters, but there are groups of people that I identify with the most, and that is the bond maids of Torwood Land.
Mm-hmm.
I very, very much identify with them. And that is because I do have a Viking heritage. So, and the Torwood Land was actually based on the Viking culture.
Yep.
So that I do love that very much. And also I've noticed too that Aussie girls, we are a little bit different from the American kajiras. We are very much like the bond maids. We're very bright. We're very cheerful. We're very bouncy. We can be very feisty. But yeah, so and I do identify with them because their personality is very much the same as my personality. However, having said that, I do definitely have the red silk side of me as well that can be very poised and very, very disciplined as well. The other characters that I really relate to, and I do kind of have little moments where that part of my personality comes out to play, and that's the Panther Girls. I very much identify with the Panther Girls because I have got a history of abuse from men, and I do love their warrior spirit as well, and I love their whole culture that they have in the woods there, and I do feel sometimes from my worst dynamics that I have basically hightailed it into the great forests and become a panther girl for a time as well. So they're another character that I really identify quite strongly with, and I do have Kajira friends that have actually said to me on some days, "Gee, your panther girl has come out today."
Mm-hmm.
When they see me have my little dummy spits. So, but Even though I do have that really wild side, I am quite tamed. So I am a very obedient slave, even though I do have that wilder, more spicy side, I guess.
Okay. And go into detail is you've been online and you're also doing real time or real life. Is what are the differences between the two? Both pros and cons. Like I know online, you're somewhat limited because there isn't fleshed on flesh or any of those things. But just your own experiences. How has that been?
Okay. Well, the online dynamic I had with my Spanish master was really, really good. I learned a lot. He taught me a lot, but you miss actually kneeling at the feet of your master. And for me, there was this absolute longing of needing to kneel at the feet of my master and to actually look at him in real life. And moving on from that, like the people that I've served in real time since then, like my mistress and my previous master, just going to their house and doing the dishes for them, cleaning their bathroom, spending time with them watching TV. You don't get that online. You don't get those little things. You don't get the giving them a manicure. You don't get hanging out there washing and the little things that you do for them. I mean, there's the big things like, you do your dances for them. There's the whole physical element as well. But for me, it's those little things that are really, really important, that actual connection of looking into the eyes real time of your dominant, and being able to see their facial expression, their body language, and you learn so much more about your dominant being able to sit there in front of them in real life, because you actually see the imperceptible movements of their body language that you miss out on online.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think that's a very important skill for a kajira to learn, is being able to pick up on the imperceptible signals of her dominant and thinking, okay, he's had a bad day. I'm going to go and do something special for him that will mean the world for him and make his night a lot better without being told. Whereas online, you miss all of that because you have to be told to do that. They have to tell you that they've had a bad day because you can't see that in their body.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And I guess a couple of other things. First of all is you have, and you know it already because you mentioned it, so she won't be upset with me, is you do have a collaring coming up. And
yes.
You have been collared before or not?
I have been collared before. I have been through a bondmaid ceremony before. So this collaring coming up is going to be a bondmaid ceremony because my mistress wants to keep me as her bondmaid. We did discuss what role she wanted me to play. So it will be a bondmaid ceremony, which is there will be a bondmaid circle on the floor and I will step into it willingly. And we'll basically give our pledges to each other, and she will collar me and I'll walk out of that circle. And that's happening in a couple of weeks, I believe. And we have backup collars because my full-time collar is still in America.
Yeah.
So
held up in customs.
we're not sure it's going to be here in time.
Yep, held up in customs. Thank you, COVID.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, okay. I know you're involved in the Gorean Gathering Plays Discord, and I know that you seem to be fairly active in the Kajira Corner, which is run by another lovely Kajira. What are 2 or 3 things that you would like to be able to share with any new girls or guys that are coming out as far as from a slave's perspective, what are some things that you could share with them to be able to help them in the journey?
Okay. The first thing I would say is read the books. Start from the very first book and read through, and then read them again. And then the other thing that I would say is be very, very careful of. There are amazing masters out there. Like the majority of Gorean masters out there are amazing people. They're beautiful, beautiful people. But unfortunately, there are wolves in sheep's clothing that move throughout social media platforms looking for kajiras because they believe, and I've even had them say this to me themselves, they want a kajira because a kajira will do anything they want. And absolutely, you do not have to do anything you are asked to do. Basically, one of the tenets of war is having honor. And a master should be contacting you. If a master is interested in owning you, he should be contacting you honorably. He should not be contacting you and then asking you within the first 5 minutes what your pubic hair looks like, which I've had. That's absolutely not an honourable question. They should be more interested in you as a person, what you've got to offer them. Absolutely be very careful of masters who will get online and will try to command and get you to do things for them online, like sending photos and videos. You do not have to do that. It doesn't make you a bad kajira if you're going to be a little bit more what's the word? Selective on who you actually submit to, because it goes both ways. Masters do have to prove to you that they are Gorean and that they are honourable. They need to give you a little bit of themselves before you give a little bit of yourself. So do not feel that you are being a bad person if you're telling somebody, I do not like what you're asking me to do, and no, I will not do it. You absolutely have every right to do that. The other thing that I would say as well is befriend other kajire. You learn a lot from each other, and it's been amazing for me with the online communities because I'm actually getting to know a lot of my kajira friends, and we video talk and we share videos amongst each other and photos and things like that. And you actually get to see how real people live for. And no one person is the same. They're all very, very different. So, you know, what this kajire does with her master over here will be very different with this one over here. And then you've got me who serves a mistress. So absolutely make friends, get a couple of mentors, ask questions. And if you're a male, I know you're going to feel a little bit lost because there's not as much information out there for the kajiras, and they're not, the attention and the spotlight isn't on the male slaves as much. But absolutely get out there, make friends, and get involved in the community and go out to some of the Gore events if you've got Gore events in your area. If you know that there are fellow Goreans in your area, get together, have a afternoon of meeting each other and having a dinner together and getting to know each other, because I think you can learn as much as you can through the books and then online, and then you'll see all the debates online on FetLife and Discord and all those sort of things, and you'll see that all the points of view are different. But where you're really going to get your learning and your knowledge from is other people who are living it real life, day in, day out.
Okay, very good.
The other thing too is I just want to bring up too, you'll have masters out there that have an idea that they'll want to try and force collar you. Force collaring, it is a Gorean thing, it is in the books, but on Earth it's not practical. You need to get to know your master, and you need to make sure that you are compatible with that master before you actually take that journey with them. It is really important that you do not go into a dynamic blind. Even if you've known that person for a little while and they are an honourable person and they're knowledgeable and they're a nice person, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the right dynamic for you. We're all different, and you need to go through that period of discussing things together, like what's your home life like? What are your things that you have to do every day? I mean, all this has to be discussed. How do you think you can serve me? When are you available? What can you do? Have you got any health problems? All that needs to be discussed, and of course, collaring takes all that away, and it's just a recipe for disaster. You need to discuss things.
Well, the biggest thing with forced collaring, and I just dumb it down very much, is that I see an image of some guy that's just read one or two books and did some googling online and is like, oh, I want a slave, and has one goes out and buys a $20 collar and is walking through Walmart just slapping a collar on any girl that looks pretty and say, oh, you're my slave now. And it's like,
Yeah.
if the girl doesn't have a clue what's going on or whatever, but she's been manipulated and coerced that, no, this is how we do things, it's not only a recipe for disaster, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to have some legal issues going on there as well with the law. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I always stress is that when you are going to collar somebody, is that girls, you need to really be sure before you beg for that collar that this is what you want. Because once that collar goes on, then you've lost your say. That's where your surrender comes in. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's like they think, oh, things could move on. It's like, no, when that collar comes on, you have 2 options after that: stay or leave. It's that simple. So you need to really, sit down with your master or your mistress beforehand and really understand in detail what's all involved, what's expected, how are they on their good days, their bad days, finances. All that stuff needs to be talked about before you beg for a collar. And I also find it comical that when you have masters running around, and it's almost like they're begging the slaves, please take my collar, please take my collar, please, 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 I don't have anybody, please. I find that fairly comical as well. But
yeah, absolutely. And it's been really good, because my collar is currently in customs, but it has given my mistress and I, even though we are committed to each other now, and we did do a lot of talking before we actually decided to take this journey together. But we absolutely have been, getting to know each other, finding out. I definitely have bad days because I have a medical condition. So I do have my bad days. She's also extremely busy, so we're learning each other's daily priorities at the moment. And I'm starting to get an idea of, things that I can do to serve her without her having to ask me. And the other thing is you need to understand how you're going to work in with the other family members in that dynamic as well. Like, you have to be able to understand, are you going to get along with the other slaves in the house? We've had a period where Ron had to meet her as well and make sure that Ron's my husband. Make sure that he was happy as well. And you've also got to have the discussion, like, are you a slave that wants to live this, like, are you open to the world, or are you quite, private about this? So, all these discussions have to take place before you put that collar on. You suddenly, you are on, you're switched on to that owner then. It's kind of like having a wedding ring, really. That collar, that's the significance of it. It's like having a wedding ring.
Exactly. And how open are you in your community?
In my BDSM community, I'm quite open. A few friends know, but the rest of my family don't know. And yeah, I'm not someone that goes up to people and says, "Oh, hi, I'm Gorean," because a normal person wouldn't understand it. Even telling people, I'm a slave and this is my mistress, they don't really understand it. So I really only tell people who I know will understand. Um, but yeah, I mean, if someone watches this video who knows me, um, then comes around and wants to talk to me about it, then yeah, fair enough. But I'm very private, but I'm also open if that makes sense. Like I'm open in certain areas where people will understand, but where they don't really understand, I'm not so, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to push it in their face.
And you don't need to conflict. So.
No.
Mhm. Okay, very good. Well, we're running just over half an hour now. Are there any closing thoughts that you have or things you'd like to be able to share? Or?
I would like to revisit the dance question if that's okay, because one of the questions that I see online a lot from kajira is how do I do slave dance? And slave dance doesn't have to be any one genre. There's this misconception that slave dance is belly dance, and it's not. It's not. It's simply there is one Gorean book where belly dance is where one of the slaves was a belly dancer, and that is Dancer of Gore.
Mm-hmm.
But you do not have to run out and take belly dance lessons to become a slave dancer. Dance comes from the heart. It is creative movement that comes from the heart, and it comes from your slave soul. So if you're a ballerina or you've got a history in ballroom, you can absolutely be a slave dancer. You just have to tap into here and think about how to emote your slave self through your movement, and how to express your servitude to your master. And I've read several quotes from several books that actually illustrate what kind of dances there are and what entails in those dances. And I've even seen dances that could be done by a pole dancer or an exotic dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So don't feel you have to rush out and learn belly dance. And you have to be very culturally sensitive too, because belly dance is a multicultural dance form. So aligning it with slave dance as the slave dance genre is a little bit disrespectful to the Middle Eastern culture. So we do have to be a little bit mindful there. But absolutely, if you are a belly dancer and you are doing slave dance and you're using belly dance moves, that's fine. But make sure it's coming from the slave heart here, because that's true slave dance comes from here.
Yep. One of the things that's fairly big around my area is tribal dancing as well.
Yes.
Which takes on its own kind of element, but it's basically a
Yeah.
lot of that basically comes right from the heart as well.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think there are many masters or mistresses are going to object. And if anyone wants to learn pole dancing or something like that, I don't think there's going to be very many masters that are going to object to something like that, just as long as it's not in the bedroom. So.
Yeah, I know one kajira who does silk dancing for her master. She's incredible.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Brandy does that as well, and she does the aerial dance as well, with the scarves up, 20 feet up in the air kind of thing. So she's fairly good at doing all that stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as far as slave dance is concerned, the world's your oyster. As long as you're moving creatively from the heart, it's good.
Okay, well, very good. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation and finally getting to see you face to face on video and hearing your voice. So I could actually understand you, which is a plus. So that's good. Some people, different parts of the world, is their accents are a little bit heavy. So this is like, okay. But no, you are a very lovely kajira, very beautiful, very intelligent. Again, I mentioned earlier about the odd time a little bit outspoken, but that's where the feistiness comes out, and that you're not going to put up with any shit, and that's important that that everyone understands that is that just because you are a slave, if you're unowned, is you are not obligated to be able to have to cam with people or show pictures or do all these silly things that unfortunately happens with being online. And you know, it'd be the same thing as if I took you out to dinner and we had a really nice dinner and said, okay, we'll go out to the car. You know, I want you to get naked in the car now because I bought you dinner.
Yeah.
Is that ethical?
You'll be
No.
like,
Is that
no.
honorable? No. You know, it's the same kind of mentality. Oh, I've spent 5 minutes with you. You have to do this, otherwise, I'm going to try to shame you. What a terrible kajira you are because you're not, which is all
Mm,
stupidity. But unfortunately, a lot of new people they don't know that they have
yeah.
that choice. So,
I do find it very interesting that, because I do have a lot of Gajira friends, and I do find that almost every one of them that I know, they are extremely strong women. They are not doormats. And if you cross them and you approach them with dishonor, they will eat you. They would definitely tell you no, absolutely not. And especially the Australian Kajire, we are quite no, you know, that's not an honourable thing to do. It's not Korean, and therefore it's not our train.
mm-hmm. And that also comes from the history of what Australia is all about. You know, being an outlaw penal colony at one point is that they definitely they they walk to their own drummer, so they have their own way of doing things, and
Yeah.
which is also unique as well. So Canadians, we seem to be the opposite. We're always the ones that are always, you know, thanking, you know, every time we go to an ATM machine, we thank the machine afterwards, or always saying I'm sorry or whatever, which is completely bunk.
Oh, we do that too.
Yeah, but yeah, it's where we're all part of the Commonwealth. So, okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciated this. And I'll get this uplinked and do some editing and have it up either later on tonight or first thing in the morning. So, thank you very much,
Wonderful.
Bond Maid.